Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all doing amazing today. In this video, we're diving into the latest updates about Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos. You don't want to miss this. So make sure to stay tuned till the end, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. The morning light spilled softly into their New York apartment, filtering through sheer curtains and painting the room in hues of quiet gold. Kelly Ripa sat on the edge of the bed, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, the weight of exhaustion evident in the slump of her shoulders. Mark Consuelos watched from across the room, his expression a mixture of disbelief, fear, and helplessness. For someone who had spent decades in the public eye, navigating fame and scrutiny with a practiced grace, nothing had prepared him for this moment. The realization that the woman he had loved for decades, the vibrant, unstoppable Kelly, was facing a struggle that no amount of charm, wit, or resilience could instantly fix. It had started subtly, as many illnesses do. Kelly had brushed off early symptoms with her characteristic humor, turning every fleeting discomfort into a joke for their children or a witty quip on social media. But when the test returned results that could no longer be ignored, the laughter that usually filled their home gave way to a quiet heaviness. Mark, a man who had always been the anchor in their marriage, suddenly found himself adrift, searching for a way to stabilize the unsteady ground beneath them both. In those first days, Mark's reaction was almost paralyzing. He had built a career on control, on knowing the right line to deliver, the right angle to hit, the right image to project. Life had taught him to be a protector, a fixer. Yet here, confronted with Kelly's illness, he found that control slipping through his fingers like grains of sand. He wanted to shield her from the fear, to absorb the pain into himself, but he could not. And the guilt of helplessness was heavier than any role he had ever played on screen. The couple had spent the better part of their marriage as a team, facing everything: career highs, public scrutiny, personal challenges, side by side. But illness is an uncharted battlefield, one that often exposes the rawest, most vulnerable parts of those who face it and those who love them. Mark was not immune. He watched Kelly navigate her treatments with bravery, even as her body betrayed her. And while the world might see a poised, smiling Kelly Ripa returning to her television show or social engagements, Mark saw the private moments, the quiet tears after a long day, the fatigue that made even standing feel monumental, and the fleeting glimpses of fear in her eyes that she tried to hide. One evening, as the city hummed below their apartment windows, Mark sat beside Kelly on the sofa, her hand trembling slightly in his. "I can't lose you," he whispered, his voice breaking under the weight of emotions he had never allowed himself to express publicly. The words felt inadequate, almost laughably simple against the complexity of their reality, yet they carried the raw honesty of a man confronting the fragility of life. Kelly, always the one to ground him, squeezed his hand and whispered back, "You're not going to. We're in this together." But even with her reassurances, Mark's mind spiraled. He replayed the scenarios over and over: the hospital visits, the waiting rooms filled with quiet anxiety, the doctor's measured tones that hinted at uncertainty. Each conversation about her prognosis was a blow to his carefully constructed sense of security. He found himself pacing the apartment at odd hours, unable to sleep, consumed by a swirl of worry and helplessness. Every sound, a cough, a dropped fork, a phone ringing, made his heart skip. The man who had once performed daring stunts on screen now felt powerless to protect the person he cherished most. Their children, aware enough to sense the tension but young enough to be shielded from full understanding, added another layer of emotional complexity. Mark had to be strong for them, a steady presence even when his own emotions threatened to unravel. There were nights when he would wake in the middle of the night, watching Kelly sleep fitfully, and feel the full force of fear and grief pressing down on him. He wanted to talk to someone, to release the storm inside, but the weight of privacy and the public eye forced him into silence. Mark's overwhelmed state manifested in ways he didn't always recognize. He became hypervigilant, questioning every decision, every symptom, every small change in Kelly's demeanor. He would accompany her to appointments, taking meticulous notes, asking questions the doctors barely had time to answer, driven by an urgent need to understand and control what felt uncontrollable. His protective instincts, usually a quiet strength, became an almost desperate obsession, a way to channel the tumultuous emotions that threatened to spill over. Yet, amidst the turmoil, There were moments of profound tenderness that reminded Mark of why his love for Kelly had always been unwavering. He remembered the morning she woke with a migraine so severe she could barely move. He brought her tea, her favorite blanket, and held her hand while she cried quietly into his chest. "I got you," he whispered, and for a brief moment, the world's chaos seemed to recede. In these moments, Mark realized that being overwhelmed did not mean being defeated. It meant caring so deeply, so completely, that the mere thought of loss was unbearable. Friends and colleagues, aware of the public persona of this iconic couple, often marveled at their composure. But those who had seen them behind closed doors understood the gravity of Mark's experience. Close friends recounted how he would call late at night, voice heavy with worry, describing symptoms, seeking advice, and sometimes simply needing to hear a comforting voice on the other end of the line. In those calls, Mark's vulnerability shone through, a stark contrast to the confident, charismatic actor the world knew. As the weeks passed, Mark's overwhelmed state evolved into something more complex, a combination of fear, resolve, and admiration. He marveled at Kelly's courage, at her ability to confront the illness with a mixture of humor, honesty, and relentless determination. Each small victory, a treatment completed, a symptom managed, a day when she felt almost herself again, was celebrated with quiet gratitude and relief. And yet, the shadow of worry remained, a constant companion that reminded him of the fragility of life and love. One particularly difficult evening, after a taxing day of treatments, Mark sat beside Kelly in the dim glow of their living room. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. Kelly reached for his hand, a simple gesture that carried a lifetime of shared experiences, laughter, and love. "You don't have to do it alone," she said. "We do it together. Every step." Her words, so characteristic of the woman he had fallen in love with, anchored him. It was a reminder that even when overwhelmed, love could provide a steadying force stronger than fear. Mark's response to Kelly's illness struggle was not a single moment of heroism, but a series of ongoing, intimate acts of devotion. It was in the gentle way he brushed her hair from her face, in the small notes he left in her handbag reminding her to rest, in the long, quiet conversations where they shared fears they would never voice publicly. His overwhelmed reaction was a testament not to weakness, but to the depth of his love, a love that was willing to confront vulnerability, uncertainty, and the rawest edges of human emotion. As the days turned into months, Mark learned to navigate the delicate balance between fear and hope. He realized that his overwhelming feelings were a natural response to the love he had invested in Kelly over decades, and he discovered that sharing those feelings, rather than burying them, became a source of strength. In the private sanctity of their home, he allowed himself to be fully human, fully present, and fully committed to standing by Kelly's side, no matter what challenges lay ahead. In many ways, Mark's overwhelmed reaction became a narrative of courage in its own right. Not the kind celebrated in headlines or scripted dramas, but the quiet, profound courage of a husband who faced the unimaginable with a heart laid bare. It was the courage to feel deeply, to be vulnerable, to love without reservation, and to confront the fear of loss with unflinching devotion. Through the struggle, Mark's admiration for Kelly deepened. He saw her fight, not just against the illness, but against the societal pressures that demanded constant performance, relentless optimism, and unending grace. He witnessed her resilience, her humor, her unwavering commitment to her craft and her family. And in that admiration, he found a renewed sense of purpose, a commitment to being her partner in every sense, to shouldering the weight of worry and offering sanctuary in moments of pain. The journey was far from over, and Mark knew that the path ahead would continue to challenge them both. But in embracing his overwhelmed reaction, he discovered a profound truth. Love, in its purest form, is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to persist in the face of it. And as he held Kelly's hand, feeling the rhythm of her pulse against his, he understood that this struggle, as harrowing as it was, had also become a testament to the enduring strength of their bond.